Okay, cool. Awesome. So yeah, my name's Liam Elio. I run CMD Careers as the co-founder, and we run these one-to-one sessions to help students CVs, their personal statements, and then also their career strategy. So booked in this one-to-one call today. Just want to know a little more about yourself, how you found your journey through university and now into like the careers market. So you've got quite a bit of experience, and also we're quite active on LinkedIn, which is a really good start. But I wanted to get more of your like personal perspective because obviously research only gives so much. So whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Partered. I have 3 years of work experience in HR in India, and I was really passionate about HR and knew what I was doing. I'm best at it. So I wanted to explore higher education, and that's when I signed up for masters at University of Strathclyde and came to the UK. I loved my course because there was a lot of assignments where we practically learned, and there was a gap between the industry and academics, which was bridged by our professors. So I really enjoyed the course and I graduated. Uh, by the end of my tenure, I had a job in hand because the company I did my research with gave me an offer to work with them. Uh,
That's awesome.
because my research was implementable and I started working at the council. In total, right now, I have 5.5 years of work experience. And at the council, I've been doing my day to day job plus helping them implement a bit of my research in their systems as well. So that's me. And right now, the challenge I face is to qualify for the new entrant visa. Uh, Council being the government authority, they don't have the budget to sponsor such a big role. So I am actively looking for roles outside now. That's me.
Yeah. Awesome. I see recently we applied to EY and got quite far into their application. You had two applications with them, right? That went to the final stage.
That's right. So I've applied at KPMG and EY. At EY, EY was the first job I applied for after the council.
Hmm.
And I qualified for two of their roles till the finals. But then due to some or the other reason, I did not get through the most final round. But I got really good feedback from them, and that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And plus, the process of assessment they had, interviews they had, gave me a lot of insights into the current HR industry and student recruitment strategies. I also applied to KPMG. I think the reason they couldn't take my profile forward for an interview was because of the visa,
Yeah.
because they wrote back to me with a personalized feedback saying that we've seen your CV, we're impressed by your qualifications, and would like you to apply for similar roles in the future. Unfortunately, right now we can't take your profile ahead. So, yeah. So, those are the two big companies my CV got through. So, that's the reason I was a bit confident on my profile, and there's something I'm doing right in my CV as well. But yeah, I haven't had luck so far. I've been applying to universities for jobs, but uh, I think visa is an issue for them as well because all the feedback for the interview I'm getting is really good. There's just one point they point out that this could have been better. So, yeah, that's my honest opinion.
Hmm.
But they obviously have their scoring sheet and stuff, so
Yeah.
they could have a different perspective about it.
Is there a consistent thing that they're saying that you could improve on? Because you said there that there's like one thing that's coming across. Is it the same thing in all of these interviews, or is it always slightly different?
No. So in the EY interview with the very first role, the feedback that was given was I could have just gone a bit deeper while giving the answer for one question.
Yeah.
So that was the feedback. For the other interview at EY, they happened to tell me that they had an internal applicant at the very last moment.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they could not take my profile back. So the feedback was good. The recruiter just told me some points about diversity, which I could highlight during my next interview. So
Mhm.
there was nothing personal feedback for me. In fact, it was really positive feedback because they require me to prepare presentations and present it to them. And I touched all the points for the job role in the presentation that was highlighted in the feedback. For a recent interview at Cambridge, University of Cambridge, I had applied for, they told me that the task they had given me. So there was a 1 hour interview, which was obviously the star based interview, competency based interview for an hour. And then half an hour was the other task. They had sent me a task which was very role based, particularly. And what they came back to say is that there was other applicant who could have answered the task in more detail because they had more experience in the same role. Whereas what they told me was that uh, the time frame I had allocated during the task was a bit misaligning. So
Mhm.
that's the feedback I had. There's nothing else I got like you could improve your structure. No, that wasn't a feedback. Eva had given me a very detailed feedback in which they said they really liked the structure I approached the answers with. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
been the case. And that's the reason I'm lost. The current challenge mainly I'm facing is that there are not many jobs to apply for.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think with the way the current politics is going, it has got a lot harder. We have helped quite a few students land roles, even internationally. So it does happen, but the approach we kind of take is finding those companies where the visa isn't the reason you were rejected. So it sounds like to me EY is one of those companies, right? So I know EY didn't work out now, but what I'd be doing personally is I'd be creating a bank of companies essentially that the visa isn't the reason you're rejected. So they're the companies we should really be targeting. Uh, the problem is by the time we've done that, legislation might change again, but we can't really predict that right now, unfortunately. The best thing we can do is get you into a role, and then if legislation changes, we do this again. But we've had some people land roles at places like Bloomberg. You're going to have to look at big companies essentially. Universities might have a similar problem to councils where they just don't have the money because obviously there's now the salary expectation on
that's true.
the visa
Yeah.
roles. Would there be any opportunity for, because I know I speak to lots of international students, would there be any opportunity for like self-funding? That's a route that a lot of them try and take, even just for the first year or so, to then get themselves on that ladder, or would it would it not be possible in this situation due to the visa?
I'm not aware of the cost the self-funding
Mhm.
requires. Could you please share that, like just approximate cost?
Yeah, yeah. After this session, I'll send you the
Okay.
research. I just don't want to misquote on
Yeah.
air, obviously.
Okay.
But yeah, I know lots of people that have taken a route like that, so that might be something worth considering. Uh, but yeah, it's going to be a case, I think, of big companies. So EY is a really good example. What's good about EY though is that we're hitting final stage. So that obviously means that everything else you're doing is pretty strong. I think that's really positive because I actually do have quite a lot of critiques of the current CV you've sent over. So if it's already pushing you to those types of levels, I think cleaning it up will really help us
Okay.
out here. The
Okay.
main thing really is the template, especially if we're applying to big companies. I think it just needs to feel a bit more corporate. So, just gonna share my screen 1 second.
Sure.
Awesome, cool. You see all that?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, no worries. So, happy with all this. I actually think this is quite good, but what you'll be able to see between these two, this is the one that I'm creating for you now, is the template I think will help you out a lot more in getting this to feel like a structured CV. I think the problem you're running into right now is this would probably work for councils, but for things like universities and for like professional companies, this is going to feel a little bit too unstructured. So I think it's worth thinking about how you structure this. Okay. We've got loads of really good experience, but a lot of this is quite descriptive. And what I mean by that is you're telling me the things you've done, you're not really telling me the value they added. So obviously things here where we're talking about like how many people we've helped hire, how many like hiring managers we've worked with, all of that's really good. And then here we start to get a bit of a metric, but there's
Yeah.
no there's no focus on the value it adds. So what I mean by that is a 30% reduction in time to hire could potentially be saving hours per day of HR operation time, which then I think what we need to do is translate that into a cost. So basically, when we're working with businesses, we want to be putting our metrics either into how much time have I saved someone or how much cost have I saved someone, right? And
Okay.
so these can be fairly kind of like broad guesses. They can be estimates, they don't have to be accurate. But what we're trying to show here essentially is that you have an understanding of how the work you do leads to more value being created, right?
Got
So,
that.
for instance, I do something like I'd probably start with the hiring managers part because it's a bit more impressive than the 300 hires just because that's seniority. So I do something like advised 15 plus hiring managers to coordinate 300 plus hires, saving 30% in time to
Right.
hire. And then from there, I would talk about what that saved. Also, here we've got this exceeding pipeline management targets. Give me details. What was the target? How much did you exceed it by? Why this is really important is it's the difference between exceeding a target by like 5% and like by double your target limit. And what that shows is the scale of the work you've actually put in, right? A
Okay.
good example of this is you see it a lot with people in like HR or events management, where they're like, I organized an event, but they don't tell you how many people went, they don't tell you the seniority. And that could be anything from, a social at a university to a massive international conference. Without metrics, you lose your ability to show scale. And scale is really what's going to be important to you here. Because a lot of these targets, a lot of the achievements you have are very impressive. We just need to characterize it more in terms of the value it's added. So off the cuff, if you had to give me an idea of what you think 30% reduction in time to hire would look like in terms of costs, how would you figure that out? So for me, the way I would do this is what would an hourly rate be for someone doing this role, and then how much in hours did that 30% reduction save? And then we apply that to everyone who was part of that reduction, essentially, right? So 5 people were part of a 30% reduction in time to hire,
Got
then
that.
that's
Yeah.
your hourly rate. And that can be really useful for you because then you can say, for instance, for talking sake, you've saved 5 grand per week, right? And
Yeah.
now people have an idea of if I hire this person, this is what they've saved before, this is what they can save again. Really important to do the same up here, right? So we talk about your metrics up here, which are really good, but what does 30% faster time to hire and 20% candidate conversion actually look like in terms of time saved, money made, all of that stuff, right? Especially if we're applying for big businesses, that's something they're really going to care about.
Okay. Got that. I'll twist it in that way where I can.
Mhm.
I'll do that. Yeah.
And then
The
we'll go for it.
the I'm sure you might know this, the words highlighted are just the keywords in the job description. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think bolding's always a really interesting one. I think potentially don't do it. I've seen like mixed opinions on this, but for like the UK CVs, it's very uncommon. At CMD, we've probably reviewed, I don't know, 300, 400 CVs now. A lot of the top CVs where people are landing really good roles, they don't bold anything.
Okay.
They don't make too much of a kind of an impact. I think sometimes they can distract a little bit. Uh, these are going to get picked up anyway by a automated system. That automated system is essentially just going to rank how good the CV is, but then a real human is going to read through it. And I think when we think about it that way, the sectioning off and having really clear kind of bullet points, I think is more important than having kind of bold points throughout
Okay.
the CV,
Yeah.
especially because some of those bold points can get a little bit vague. So, for instance, candidates, candidate journeys. So things like ATS, CRM, potentially that makes more sense to bold. They are technical tools of your trade, right? But other kind of points that you're making, I don't think they necessarily need to be in bold. And I think because it can be a bit distracting, I think it's best to just not have any of it in bold. I don't think it makes that big of a difference. I think where you're really going to make value is showing your metrics, showing your achievements. And this kind of like brings me more to your LinkedIn side of things and all of that. Not going to show it to the camera or anything, but I'll refer to it. You've got a really strong LinkedIn, like especially now that you're job hunting, it's clear you're posting really consistently. And we've got a lot of exposure with your university in terms of guest speakers, roles, and all of that. So I know you've got one coming up, right?
Yeah.
And you've done one before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. That's the type of stuff that in this new education system I would throw in here. I've left all this blank just so people don't know where you went. But for me, I think it's really important that that idea of how you have contributed, not just to your university, but because for you it's more focused around
Early
the role
career.
you have
Yeah.
now. Yeah, both as a graduate, but also, you're part of the CIPD and you've
Yes.
added value to that. That's something that I think you
Yeah.
should really capture here. It doesn't really get captured as much in your original version, right? This, you've got the idea that you've had 5 years experience, really good, but this doesn't show you the level 7, and it also doesn't talk about how much value you've added. And I think that's a bit of a shame. I think bringing it in is more important. The CV is no time to be modest. CV is where you've got to get as much out there as possible about the value you can add.
Okay. There's also something I wanted to add. So with the
Yeah, go for it.
CV, I always submit other document which has all my achievements and awards wherein I've described
Mhm.
how my achievement is related to the role. In the sense, if I'm applying for an early career role, then I have a video with the university and I say this is how I inspire and I guide early careers and stuff as well. And I have tried keeping the work experience as much as possible in the CV because being in HR, you could write 100 points, but it's very difficult to just stick to 20 points that are required in the
Mhm.
CV. So that was a very big challenge I was facing when I'm doing my CV, but I'll try out the template you're showing me. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think where it'll add value to you is right now this kind of reads like a line of bullet points. Uh, One after another is kind of a little bit confusing where one job starts and one job ends. And also, I think because you've got as much space as you have, we're entering a 2-page CV, which isn't always a problem, but I think sometimes it leads to an issue of we've got too much experience that could potentially be funneled somewhere else. So, for instance, I would focus this around more of your recent roles. And as we're approaching 5 years of experience, let's say
Yeah.
you got a new role, you'd have to remove something from here. Because after 5 years, the idea essentially is that should be the limit of the CV, especially for early careers. And then anything else, that's what LinkedIn's kind of for. We can throw that on our experience section there. That's a really good problem to have because it basically means that as you're gaining more and more experience, you've got stuff that's not even on the CV because you're basically saying, I've moved on from that experience and it's still good experience, but this is the best stuff I have to offer. Always think of the CV as
Oh,
the best stuff. And
okay.
especially if we're going on the corporate side, I think a one pager that's really strong will benefit you more than 2 pages where half of it feels really good and then slowly it starts to feel like older content that potentially isn't quite aligned with where you are right now. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. I can see
I
myself doing that. Uh, it's going to be challenging to keep it to one page, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think you've got to be a bit more ruthless with this. And this is where like the descriptive element of the CV as well gets a little bit difficult to manage. A lot of this stuff can probably be brought together, because that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's 10 experience points for one role, which has lasted. Yeah, it's lasted a fair bit of time. It's lasted 2 years. But to me, I think that's because you're talking about where you've done stuff rather than the achievements you've made, right? So to me, I would focus this more on big wins, big projects, really significant metrics rather than your day-to-day operations, if that makes sense. I think that will help you out a lot more, because instead of having a CV that's kind of like, this is what I do in this role, this is what I do in this role, it's more to do with, in this whole role, this is what I've achieved and this is what I can add to your business, right? So that's the stuff where you've reduced time, the stuff where you've improved pipeline management, the stuff where you've added real monetary value to companies. That's the stuff that I'd be putting into these new bullet points here. And because we've got less bullet points, that's going to really get you thinking about what's important here and what isn't. So for instance, it depends where your values are, but to me, there's several points here that are really impressive. So even things like this, I know Microsoft Forms isn't all that technical, but to be able to reduce a backlog from 7 days to 2 days, obviously that's going to save tons of money, tons of time, and I think that's the thing. It's like, usually, at least in my experience, some of the best things you do in your role are pretty boring, or pretty like underappreciated things, right? So when you're looking at this, people might think, Microsoft Forms isn't all that technical, and this doesn't sound like this big of a thing. But GDPR compliance, data accuracy, and 7 days to a 2-day turnaround is massive. I think we need an idea of what that compliance looked like in terms of a metric, and also what the data accuracy looked like. But even if we can't get that, monetizing the 7 days to 2 days, I think, is really important for you, because between this and between the reducing of candidate withdrawals and kind of candidate time, I think you've got a really good argument for adding a lot of value to this role. And then what we need to do is use that as a template for other roles, right? So when we come down to this one, this is the role that landed you your role on top, right?
Yeah.
So that's really impressive already. You obviously did a good job. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got the role out of it. But then what we need to figure out here is where was the value? So you said to me that what they really appreciated about this was that you had solutions that they could implement, right?
Yes.
Well, they implemented them because they were valuable. So what we need to figure out is, how valuable were they? What were they doing in terms of time savings or cost savings that made them more valuable, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then these are the things that I think you share out.
Okay. So reviewed recruitment policies identifying 10 cost neutral improvements could be the first point, but then the policies that were implemented, I could go into detail. It was just tweaking quick wins, like changing their application forms to make it more anonymous and stuff. So I could go on with that, and then creating onboarding checklists to make it process aligned. I can connect what you're saying and what I could change. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And then because these are cost neutral improvements, what that suggests to me is the low cost of investment means that any amount of money that was saved here, or any amount of money that was made here, was instantly like beneficial to the company, right? So figuring out the total savings or the total investment of those 10 cost neutral improvements, even if it was, I don't know, a few £100 a week, that's still extra like operational money, that's still budget save, that I think you should really push here. And when you link that to the context of the fact that these improvements then landed you that role, I think it shows you as someone who's got a really keen eye for kind of operational improvements, automating processes, being really, really clear about how to get the most value out of roles like that. And I think that's a skill set that a lot of people struggle with. So it's definitely something I'd push up a bit more.
Okay, I get that. So, the only concern I have is that being the council, it's a public sector organization, and it wasn't me who independently did it. I mean, it was my research, but there was a whole team involved to get it implemented. So I don't think I could get the exact cost for some of the points, but I can definitely get the time of labor work it did
Yeah.
reduce and what impact it had. So I'll try to concentrate more on that instead of telling that I helped them save this much because I have no proof for that at all.
Yeah, of course, no worries. And that's the thing, right? That you've got to put the metrics into one, what data you have, but also two, sometimes that's more useful. Sometimes it's more useful to say to people, this is how much time I saved you, because that's them then thinking, oh wow, yeah, that's half of my day that I can do something else. Rather than when you give people money metrics, sometimes they can't really quantify that very easily. So I think if you've got time saved on hand, that's a much more useful approach to take. And kind of a comment on that as well. Every role you ever do will have a team around you, but it doesn't stop the
Yeah.
CV from feeling very independent. Like you're not saying that you did everything, but you are saying that as a part of this team, this is, what you pushed forward. I think that's useful to think about for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Things like this as well. Like I think some of these points get a little bit too long. I think we've got to think about the main value of each point, right? So when we're
That,
talking about
yeah.
here, the structured interviews are really good. Having them with the senior leaders is better. But then what did that lead to? Because here we say we diagnose processes, gaps, and create solutions. But really, that's fairly vague. What I'd want to see here is constructed interviews with 10 senior leaders and hiring managers. And then from there, what did that actually, lead to? Was that a process improvement? Was that a time save based on a certain task? Just give me a little bit more in terms of the specificity, because the problem with doing stuff like this, where we're talking about like our achievements in a vague sense, is you're forcing the recruiter to make one of two judgments. Either you're doing this because the thing that you're pushing forward didn't actually lead to that many results, right? You see lots of students do this when they're unconfident about something that they've achieved, or they're unconfident about their CV, they'll start throwing in loads of keywords and they'll start really over explaining a lot of their experience. And it's not because it's complex, it's because it then takes away from what was your actual like success metric here. I don't think that's you. I think for you, it's a
No.
case of you're just being too vague, but you don't want to risk being interpreted that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I could get more specific with it. I never thought about it from the perspective you're explaining. So yes, I was just trying to cover all the keywords in the job description to get through ATS, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I can see why. Quick comment on ATS. This is a really interesting one. I work with a lot of people in HR, a lot of people that sit in these ATS screening teams. You get a lot of conflicting information, but I do think they don't automatically screen CVs. So when we're talking about things like keywords, we're talking about things like ranking CVs, I think make it natural, and then by the nature of you having experience here, a good company will pick up that that's a strong CV. I think sometimes when we're throwing keywords at a CV, it just starts feeling like it's written for a robot. And the problem is, if a human picks it up, then they might see it as a little bit inaccessible, right? So I'd say keywords are great. They're great when they are relevant and they're great when they apply, but use your CV like a entry point into how you'd actually go about the interview, right? And if you're throwing out all of these keywords, I think it comes across as a little bit inauthentic. You've got loads of experience. You are a really solid candidate. You're not going to be screened out of an opportunity because you didn't use enough keywords. Where you are going
Okay.
to be screened out an opportunity and it sucks is because right now there will be what we call knockout questions, and that's actually what's losing you positions, where essentially it'll be like, do you have a visa requirement? And as soon as you answer yes to that, that's an automated system that knocks you out. Nothing we can do about it. The right role won't have those problems. And I do think you're one of those students that's right on the cusp. There's really two types of international student. There's the international students who really struggle due to either poor experience, they don't really understand how to set up their CV, or they don't have enough visibility. You've got plenty of visibility and you're only gaining more. This CV makes a few mistakes, but overall the content's really strong and we're getting to final stages. So you're not that international student that's sitting here being like recycled around the system and not getting anywhere. Landing final stage interviews is really impressive, and it suggests to me it's going to take some time, but you're going to land a role. And I think you'll be fine there. So because of that, I potentially look at where you're showcasing the most value in this CV rather than trying to cover like everything. Okay. So I'd focus much more on the experience that most gave you recognition, or most gave you a sense from your seniors of you really added business value, or you really added something to the project you're working on here. That makes sense?
Yeah, I could cut down the third experience into half. Like, I can do that when it comes to the values. So yeah, I'll concentrate on that. So yep.
I think it is good experience. Like, all of it's really strong. It's just about leading with these metrics, first of all, because they're the things people care about. So this is a good example, right? Basically, in the second line, we're talking straight away about the metric that's important to the sentence. And then from there, yeah, all I'd say here is this is good. What would make it better is, again, giving me a scale. How did you improve the pipeline quality, and what did candidate engagement jump from? You know, this could be a percentage, this could be a number, but giving me a estimate of this is really important to then be able to again say, this is where your scalability is. A lot of this is going to feel a bit repeated, and it's because CVs actually aren't all that complicated. You get good experience, and then from there, your main job is to show people that you understand that you're here to show value, not to show what you did. And I think that's something students really struggle with. A lot of students and early careers professionals focus so much on, well, I spent 3 years here, so here's all the things I did. I don't want to know all the things you did. I want to know what things you did that really added to the role you played. They added to potentially project costs. They added to how essentially you go about getting more business, or making business easier to do for the company you work at. Because even in things like council roles, where it's not so business focused, you've still got this idea of, if you can save time, you can then do more stuff, makes the council more efficient. So all of this kind of metrics around efficiency, I think, is really important. It's a really good thing to track. Overall, with your journey so far, how many applications have we applied to? Because you've said you've had a few final stage interviews. You obviously said that EY was one of your first applications that went to final stage. How many have we applied to so far?
I think around 20, because I started applying in June, I would say. EY was in April, but I wasn't really looking for a job.
Yeah.
So I would say 20, and when it comes to job search, I'm being really selective for the jobs I'm applying to. I don't want to be applying to 100 and just hearing back. So I've applied for 20 till now. I can say confidently, yes.
Yeah, that is the right approach, especially with international students. You don't want to be essentially like shotgunning out applications. You'll just waste your time. What we usually recommend when you're starting out with applications again is 5 to 10 a week. If you've got other commitments as well, less than that, but at most 5 to 10 a week. The reason why,
I could do 5 to 10 a week. That's fine.
The reason why is it will give you time to reflect and learn, right? If you do 50 applications this week, good or bad, first of all, if all of them come through and ask for an interview, that's a lot of interviews you then have to do. And that would stress me out personally. And the other part of it as well is you want to be using every one of these opportunities to learn something, right? So as you did with EY, you want to build up this sense of getting more confident, building your visibility, all of that. Do we track our applications right now? So we've got like an Excel tracker of this is the stage I hit, this is how I felt about the role, this was the result, etc.
Since it were less in number, I think I had a mental tracker going on, but I could make an Excel tracker. That's no problem at all. It's quite good with it. Yeah.
Yeah, either throw one together yourself, or I'll happily throw one together for you just to show you the types of things I want to include in it. But really useful for you to start getting an idea of where the pitfalls are in your application in an actual like tracker so we can see it, because that's the next step that's really going to help you out. Usually I talk about things like LinkedIn networking and visibility, but I think you've got a plan for that. It seems like I can see a pattern that since you left your council role, you've been posting fairly consistently and a lot more often than usual. And if we're doing that to increase visibility, we're doing that to secure events. I think that's exactly the right approach. You know, this alumni guest speaker opportunity, etc. All of that is really good for showing you as someone who, and this is a really important point, you want to be.
Yes. I had a question around it as well. If there's other session I can book, I'm ready to do that. The challenge with LinkedIn is that I am connected to almost 100 plus HR professionals on LinkedIn, but I really don't know how to reach out to them when it comes to job search. Some of them I know they won't be able to help me, but some of them, if it's just a casual chat, I could have, this is me, I'm looking for so and so job. So if you come across anything in your company, please let me know. I am not able to make the use of network I actually have. I know I'm able to make use of the platform as a whole.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't been able to do that.
Okay. Why do you think that is? Is that like a shyness thing? Is it you don't really know how to approach it? How do you think we can help you there?
I really don't know how to approach it. And with me being, if you go through my LinkedIn, I've been authentic. It's just me out there. Like there's no goal as in such in mind, like I want reach or something. I say what I feel and actually what I've reflected on. So it's a challenge of being honest, authentic, and also reaching out to people in a way that would be approachable to them instead of just being like, oh, hi, I need a job and so and so. So that stops me.
100%, yeah. Best way to go about this is, and I'll catch up with you after this session as well to kind of give you more or less kind of a template for how I do this. But depending on how quickly we need a job, sometimes, especially on your authenticity thing, saying what you actually want out of a connection is really important. It depends on your time frame. But if we've got a bit more time to build real relationships, the advice I would give is come at it from a place of curiosity and learning. I know that we've got our 3 to 5 years professional experience, but you're still early, right? You're still early in your career. You've still got lots to learn. What I potentially do is I potentially leverage things like, you know, the guest speaker opportunity, all these other opportunities you've taken on LinkedIn, and use those and essentially have something along the lines of I'm a early careers professional in this area. I'm really interested in the culture of your company and the like projects you've worked on. Do you mind having a 5-minute, 10-minute chat? Right? You're not asking for anything, and this is really important as well for like students. You've got to think about this, I think, in terms of you've obviously got some type of end goal, but you want it to come about a bit more naturally, right? And I think the best way to do that is get people to talk about themselves and get people to relate to you on either their curiosity, a shared background. So another really good one is how many of your LinkedIn connections come from your university, because that's really your university should be kind of your crown jewel in how you build out your network.
Okay, a lot of them. Liam, if this call extends, I'm happy to pay the charges.
No, you're all good. You're all good. We're
Okay.
not going to extend much
Yeah.
longer than this. It's fine.
Okay.
This is just this free value.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
you'll be.
a lot of them come from my university, so I could start with that for starters, yeah. And about the recent project and culture, I recently reached out to someone saying that I'm really impressed with your company culture and the projects you've been doing. I would love to learn a bit more, like what's been your best experience at the company. So
Yeah.
that's how I reached out to them.
Yeah. And how did that go?
I haven't got a reply yet. I
No
just
worries.
reached out the day before, so
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So there's two parts to this. First of all, I'm sure you're aware of this. A lot of people use LinkedIn to find jobs and opportunities. And once they are secure, they never use LinkedIn again. So there is a little bit of kind of cat and mouse here where a lot of people, because it's a promotional platform, will stop using LinkedIn and also stop paying attention to it as soon as they're secure. Because a lot of people feel that the platform's getting more and more self-promotional. It's getting a lot more unbearable to be on LinkedIn if you don't have a reason to be there. And the reason to be there is you're promoting a service or you want a job. So I wouldn't take any of it to heart. It's most likely if you're reaching out to someone and they're not replying at all, they just aren't on LinkedIn because they don't need anything out of it.
Yeah.
But there's lots of people, especially, I'd even go through other recruiters, like that's a really good way of doing this because it's their job to be on LinkedIn, right? Finding people to network with whose job is to be on LinkedIn means that you should at least start getting some traction because they're meant to be there. So that's a good place to start. And then another thing is consistency. I think if we're doing 5 to 10 applications a week, maybe let's do 20 connections a day, something like that. Literally throw out some connections with people who you're interested in speaking to. And as soon as they connect with you, just give them a authentic, definitely don't template it out, give them an authentic message on why you want to talk to them, your situation currently. But again, don't be shy, don't be modest here. Like you're here to get a role. So talk about, your achievements, talk about your publications that you've done. All of that stuff's really impressive and it helps you stand out. And then I think from there, after talking to them, get on a chat, make the chat 10 minutes. The reason you make it 10 minutes is because after that, people will be like, do I have the time of day to take this on? And I think it's quite important to be to be aware of the value of people's time, right? So 10 minutes is plenty because if you get a good 10-minute chat with someone where you're basically like, here's my CV, here's the opportunities I'm looking for, here's where I've helped people before, I think that's really valuable. And then if they like you, they'll follow up. And I think that's the best way to go about it. Building networks is really important for sure. It's just that they take a bit of time to establish. But if you're doing all of these things to build your visibility and you're doing all of these things to put yourself out there, you will naturally start collecting more of a network anyway, because not a lot of people contribute to LinkedIn. So as soon as you start doing that consistently, you'll stand out either way. But this will speed up the process. Is there a list of companies you'd want to work for? Do we have that?
In the UK,
Mhm.
not really, apart from the Big Four and the universities, because I knew they would be able to sponsor me in HR. The companies have been writing in their job adverts that the sponsorship isn't available. So I go by the job posts.
Yeah.
There is Monzo and digital banks, but yeah, apart from them, no. Do you have a research list of companies?
I can pick you up something. That's
Okay.
fine. But the reason I ask is I think it'll be useful to start putting that together. I'll help you with that. But if we don't have a sector specification, I think it becomes a lot easier, right? Like as you said, like there's a lot of big banking companies that will be able to sponsor you. There's lots of big consulting firms that will be able to sponsor you. And I think from there, that helps out quite a bit with then being able to open up your options. Okay.
Yeah, because I had also signed up before with a platform, Migrates. So two international students had started that 2 years back, and they've been able to get around 70 people sponsored jobs. They had their own hunter board, job search board, but then there were not many roles in HR which would appear there as well. So that was the main challenge. Like, that's the reason I thought it's a safe bet to target the top companies and the universities and
Yeah.
government councils, obviously, if they have a job. So yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't have it either.
Yeah, I've heard of the platform. But I think, to be honest, everyone that's trying to help international students right now is really struggling because they're a great platform. I've spoke to the founder a few times before. I think they've got a really good thing going. It's just right now everyone's feeling the squeeze a little bit there. But
That's true. Yeah.
where you're a lot luckier than them is they need to basically be finding lots of roles. You need to find one. One role is all we need here. And if we're already hitting end stage applications, it really is just a case of getting a bit lucky and tightening some stuff up.
Okay. Could I just send you a list of roles I've applied to and I've got interviews as well? So in EVA, it just wasn't early careers. It was just, it was also pre-boarding recruiter, that is a onboarding specialist when it comes to industry terms. So I have 5 different CVs for that 5 different roles, and I'll work on them again on the feedback given, but I'll send you a list of roles which I have applied to and I've got interviews for.
Yeah, sure. No worries. That's probably the best place to start our next session is aligning all of those CVs, making sure we're happy with them. Okay, cool. That comes to the end of our session.
Okay.
I hope you're happy with that as a start. More than happy to talk to you next weekend again about this. I think you're in a really strong position, and with a few changes, we'll start to see some really big wins.
Timeline wise, I just wanted to let you know that my current visa ends on 30th of November, which is 2 months from now. And I know it's a very close timeline, but then as I said, I do qualify for the new entrant visa until 2027. So I am positive even if I have to go back for a while, I still can crack a job in the UK because of the conditions. So I am open to giving in as much as I can. And obviously, this was really helpful. Thank you. And I look forward to arranging the next session next weekend.
Yeah, no worries at all. I think you're in a good place. I think I'll send you back this CV template. We'll start putting that tracker in place. I think more of a strategy will help you out a lot, but you're already doing a lot of the right things. I think it's just about that little bit more for a little bit longer.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know the value you're adding, so all I can say is thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
it's nice to talk to you.
Same here.
You too. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.